because this idealistic thing of a cosmopolitan melting pot of ideas where everybody's allowed to have their idea and coexist next to somebody with their idea is an American thing. That is not a worldwide shared viewpoint. That happens in America. Everywhere else, they go assimilate to my way or die. I mean, the very extreme version, or very let's be subjugated, be what you call it, disavowed, be everything. If you're not going to assimilate, you're not a citizen.
You have to become a part of our culture,
Mhm.
or you're not going to make it.
Right.
In America, Stalin was very effective with this in how he, when the USSR took over a location, he was very conscious or very deliberate about integrating Russians into those areas and spreading like cultural racial groups
Russianism
among the Soviet population, so that they wouldn't maintain their own cultural identity, so that they would have kids who would be citizens of the Soviet Union.
Tito did the same thing in Yugoslavia. Tito was the Stalinist strongman of Yugoslavia. He did the same thing. People praised nationalism, praised Tito. People would have big pictures of Tito in their house. Right, the kids would go out and march and sing songs to Tito. But what happened? Tito died.
Yeah.
And then the dissolution of Yugoslavia happened within 10 years. And in that high level of violence and genocide. Right? It's the Bosnian conflict in 94 in a nutshell. And so like that's like, yes, it can be forced for a period of time, but as soon as you start letting go of that, humans tend to fall into birds of a feather. In general, America is different because we have this consistent reinforcement of melting pot, right? We go, look, segregation could have gone a different way. It could have gone more extreme. It didn't have to go to integration. It could have very easily in that time period been like, okay, fine. We for the Indians, we created reservation. We're just going to do the same thing.
And
it was that close. It was that close.
I tend to think that the reservation idea would have been like we probably would have been better off taking the Stalinist approach. Honestly, like you become members of America. You are now Americans.
Well, that's what we did.
Your cultural identity is tied to where we move you and the people that you interact with. I feel like honestly, I feel like that would have been a more effective means of harmonizing and cohabitating than, hey, here, go and live alone with all of your folks on this shitty little patch of land, and then maybe we'll funnel you some money sometimes. Right? Like the rates of alcoholism and drug use and all cause mortality and early mortality among the Native American populations of various tribes are way worse than the average American.
Well, right? The options back then was to genocide or not genocide. And they had already done a lot of genocide.
And I don't think the US gets enough credit for making the decision not to just wipe them all out. Right? Everyone thinks the US is the bad guy for stealing all this land.
Yeah.
Okay, if you feel that bad about it, go ahead and give it back. Go buy some land. Say, hey, this belongs to the Native Americans now. This belongs to the indigenous people now. Go do that.
Well, they did that.
Oh, you're not willing to do that? You just want to bitch and complain about it? Okay. I respect your perspective now.
Well, there's some interesting points. So this is kind of it's interesting, right? Because I look at my biased lens is always through economics. Always. Like I look at everything via an economic viewpoint. It's just the way my mind is rewired. And so I actually did a study because actually I was proposed the question as a hypothetical. Right now, look, people who see this video, right? I'm Hispanic, he's white. I don't have a black guy here to kind of help me with this, but so this is the way it's going to be. But I'm a researcher, right? I'm a data guy. And then here was the proposal. What if segregation did not integrate, but further segregated into their own enclaves, right? So you kind of have like, not say reservations per se, but you have a black nation, right? We have Caucasian nation, you have white, and you have black nation. Back then, right, it would have been a different story. And so what would have been the difference? And would we have the Wakanda effect is the best way I can explain it. Because I could tell you, like when Black Panther came out in the movies, the first one, and people saw Wakanda, there was that changed things. It changed the perception of like, oh shit, we could have had that. Like why don't we have that? Like there's in the communities, absolutely 100%. Like it's a change. It shifted. It gave a different way of thinking about things. And so, right. So through this exercise, I had to find a relevant recent currents of, do we have an example?
North Korea.
Right? No. Actually, Native Americans. No, inside the United States.
Yeah.
Like Native Americans. And so the question is, so why did Native Americans, they have had this land since the beginning, right? Why don't they have their Native American version of Wakanda kick in, right? Because technically everything that they do on their land is their deal. And besides a casino, why isn't there more stuff? And it came down to, and this is a good economics thing from Forbes, it talked about the philosophy, the beliefs in communal living. And so because they don't own the land, so what they basically, it ends up being a problem of rule of law and property rights. On any of these reservations, no Native American has property rights. They're all equally divided amongst themselves. And so no one owns an actual piece of land to build a house on. That's why nobody builds a house on it, because it's all communal. And so they only build mobile things on land, which creates this poverty moment, because nobody has property rights. Nobody can build wealth. That's the real problem inside that area. And the chief and the council, where they bring in a non-Native American in, because they don't have construction equipment, they don't have factories, right, to build stuff. So somebody has to come in, a vendor has to come in and build a road. Halfway through building the road, the chief could be like, nope, never mind, get out of here. And they could break the contract.
So it's the societal structure that exists in some Native American cultures that restricts their economic progress, their technological progress.
100%.
Because there's nothing incentivizing it. That's what it sounds like.
And there's no individual, like the whole Adam Smith, right, of personal destiny doesn't exist there, right? And it's very frustrating for a lot of, like today's Native Americans, like the children of type of thing. Which, by the way, because there's only 100% of the land, every time somebody has a baby, it's divided up again. So they now own 0.4023% of something they can't build on.
And when you build a casino, when you get enough consensus to build a casino, if memory serves, I remember reading an article that suggested that that turned out to be very bad for a lot of tribe members, because they would be forced out to make those pieces of the pie a little bit bigger.
Forced out, and it's not equally distributed as you would think based on their philosophy, right? Otherwise, and if it was, then every time it has a baby, that cut gets smaller. So it's intrinsically has a problem.
But
the moral of the story
does not work. That clearly does not lead towards economic progress.
It was property rights, rule of law. Those are the things that hinder progress. Any place on the planet now, you can apply that to anywhere. Anywhere where you don't have property rights, you don't have rule of law to enforce contracts specifically, to enforce it, you're never going to have economic prosperity.
Interesting.
Never.